Oh boy. Well, here we go, guys. We all know the comparison between The Last Jedi and The Last of Us, how it's divided the fan base. That's pretty much as far as the comparison goes. There's really not much else. We're comparing two different stories, two different media, a zombie horror story to a space opera franchise. So, very complex stories going on here. I wouldn't say the themes or elements are complex, but they're very different things. The whole point of the comparison is that it's divided the fan base. The reaction has been not consistent. It's been one's very negative and one's very positive. There's very few people in between saying, it was okay. It was all right. They either have a very strong reaction to one in one direction or the other. So that's where we draw the comparison. Other than that, no, we don't do anything else. From divisive fan responses to complex themes, I think the stories are complex. I don't think the themes are complex. That's kind of... And when you have complex themes, that's never really a great thing. Because if you have complex themes, you have either a complex character or a complex story as a whole, depending on your definition of a theme. Theme is just a categorization of the content of a story. So man versus man is a very common theme, man versus nature. So if you're having something like a complex theme, I want to know exactly what that theme is. Is that like self-interest or motivation versus the greater good? Like that might be a complex theme if you have a complex character. For example, in The Last Jedi, most characters are black and white, aside from maybe Kylo Ren. He's kind of on the fence. We're not sure, is he going to be good? No, he's mostly bad. So he's definitely bad, but he could have elements of goodness. But that's as far as it goes. Everyone else in that story is black and white. In The Last of Us 2, everyone is morally gray, like every single character. There's no one who's kind of good and kind of bad. They all have elements of both. So it's a little hard to figure out how we can compare these two on their elements, like their themes, and say, they're exactly like. It's like, wait a second. So I think this author is getting a little ahead of himself, or they didn't think this through. So on the surface, they seem like they have nothing in common. Exactly. It becomes clear that these two properties are actually more alike than not, especially when comparing. In fact, both reception and theme, they're nearly identical. This is where it's like, okay, buddy, you better back this up. Rave reviews, divided fans, agree the critics quite vocally disagreed. Made a petition, be remade, yep, okay. The Last Jedi broke canon by portraying Luke Skywalker, the optimistic hero of the original trilogy, as a disillusioned curmudgeon who resents the Force. That's fine. You can do that. You could have old man Luke, who's really disgruntled and hates the Jedi. That's fine. It's why he became that way. It's how he got there that matters. And that's what they screwed up in The Last Jedi. You can have an explanation, and it was there, and it was not sufficient. In order to have an about face, a 180, you have to have sufficient evidence. And you have to have good reason. It can't just be, I'm a curmudgeon now because I felt shame. You can only feel shame for so long before you get out of the rut you're in and do what you normally would do, which is being Luke Skywalker and saving the galaxy again. Because they didn't want to tell that story. Rian Johnson didn't feel like it. So according to these fans, The Last Jedi and The Last of Us Part 2 degraded their franchises. I would say destroyed, not degraded. When you're talking about degrading something, you're saying, here's a thing, and it's not as good. It's just sort of meh, just sort of brought the thing down. The Last Jedi destroyed the franchise. The Last of Us 2, I wouldn't say destroyed the franchise, which is only 2 games. It sort of just did nothing. It went nowhere. It had 2 stories. One of them was pointless, and the other one was slice of life. And you could even argue those are interchangeable terms for both stories. Because you're like, all right, well, Ellie's just doing what she wants to do, and Abby's story is equally pointless because she's also just doing what she wants to do. It's just this silly slice of life murder simulator. Ironically, it is through these controversies that both these two things, honor their respective histories. You're like, really? Abby's role in The Last of Us may be painful, but that's the point. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having a painful element of the story, but not the entire thing. All of Abby's story is just meandering, playing as a character you don't want to play as. They say, well, that's the point. I don't know. When I go to a restaurant, I don't want a really tough piece of steak. I don't want the entire thing to be a piece of grizzle or undercooked or overcooked. I want a chef to be amazing. I want him to uplift the role of the steak or the meal. The same with Abby. Abby could have some tough parts about her. They could have some elements we don't like, but everything about Abby goes, ugh, I don't like this character. Yeah. I can identify with her because she pets dogs. I get it. I know what's happening in the story. You're showing us her daily life and her friends and what she cares about. We get it. That's not hard to grasp. But we're still we're putting on a pair of shoes we don't want, we don't need, because we have our goal in mind. The audience knows what they need to do. And once you get up to that scene, that controversy, I don't know if this is controversial to you guys, but if you're suddenly attacking the protagonist in the cinema and you're going after Ellie, you're like, I don't want to do this. This is a contradiction of terms. You have two through lines are coming together, and you're like, well, someone better win here. And no one wins. No one kills the other. Yeah, some people die as a result, but they just go their separate ways again. It doesn't resolve anything. And it was obvious that's going to happen. You can't just end the story like that. That would have made logical sense in the story because something should have happened. You have all these weapons lying around. Abby's really strong. She ends up winning the fight anyway. But because Lev's there, Lev's like, yeah, Abby, don't do this. I was like, okay. Abby will walk away next time. So that was dumb. But people playing as Abby go, I don't want to fight Ellie. And yeah, no kidding. And you're forced to. You're forced to beat this person in that you play as, that you care about. It's like watching Joel get killed all over again, except there's no finishing blow. It's like, oh, I have to go through this again with Abby? Ellie has to go through more suffering? And then we go back to Ellie, and she's in her happier life, and she's still suffering. It's like, oh boy, more pain and suffering. I can't wait. Naughty Dog wanted players to hate Abby in order to emphasize the empathy that's at the heart of the series. You see, I don't mind that. I don't mind emphasizing that. It's how you get there. If you wanted Abby to be a successful character that's likable, you have to downplay Joel's involvement as a hero or a paragon or a good guy. You have to make everything he does bad and everything Abby does as good. It's very clear what you have to do. It's really that simple. To like a character, they do something horrible. You're like, oh my God, I hate this character. Then you have to start building up all the good things this character is. You don't do that by showing them that they have a family or showing us that they pet dogs and they save kids that happen to be their enemy. That's okay. It's not bad. It's just not what you do. You have to do great things. Like, I did this for the greater good. There's a thing that's hurting me internally. I had to kill Joel. Everyone was pressuring me. I didn't want to do it. It was this thing everyone kept talking about. I was having nightmares. I was getting kicked out of whatever. You have to show Abby as a person you care about, of all the things that were going on in her life that forced her to do this thing, and then show her that she feels guilt. She did this thing and she feels guilty, or whatever after effect you want. To show us her humanity. Instead, all we get is a brutal monster. Yeah, she has some personal problems here and there. That doesn't mean much. It means something, but not much. Not in the context of what this story was trying to do. In the original Last of Us, audience came to love Joel despite his terrible deeds. Yes, everyone's great. Whoop-de-doo. By making Abby the co-star, Naughty Dog doubled down on these themes of love and redemption. There is no redemption story. Abby's through line is not a redemption story. At best, it's a helping kids story. That's it. The theme of helping kids is the major theme of Abby's story, because that's what Abby does for most of the part. She gets saved by kids. She goes to help them. Then she goes to help them again. Then she goes to help get hospital supplies for Yara. Then she goes to help Lev when Lev takes off. And then that's near the end of the story. And then she ends up with Lev at the end. It's pretty much just helping kids. When she kills Joel, that's a good thing to her. And we're sitting there going, you're a monster. And that never goes away. Yes, we see other elements of her lifestyle. Yes, we see that she's scared of heights. And she somewhat overcomes that fear in the process of helping Yara, getting medical supplies. That's it. That's all there is to Abby. Everything else is just murder and death. Abby hurts people the audience cares about. Similarly, Luke's journey in the Last Jedi encapsulates Star Wars philosophy about the Force. Okay, interesting. I don't think it encapsulates the philosophy of the Force, because there was barely any philosophy in The Last of Us. It was definitely not a make you think sort of movie. If you want that sort from your Star Wars, you go play Knights of the Old Republic. Then you'll get a subversion of your expectations of what the Force is. Certainly, what the Jedi are, what the Jedi mean. Luke must learn to forgive himself and embrace the universality of the Force. When was Luke ever feeling sorry for himself? He felt shame, but that's not something he needed to overcome after 30 or 40 years. Feeling shame was about it. What did he feel sorry for? He wanted to die. He wanted to run away and just everyone leave him alone. That's all he wanted. When was he feeling sorry for himself? If Kylo Ren never woke up and Luke pulled out his lightsaber and was about to do something, nothing would have happened. He would have went, oh, yeah, I'm an idiot. I'll put my lightsaber away. And that's that. That would have been but nope, he had to wake up and freak out and kill or whatever he did to Luke's temple. That would have been that. But Luke went, oh, I'm so ashamed at what I thought was bad. It's like, what? Yeah, what you did was kind of creepy, Luke, but you didn't actually do anything. You just walked into someone's room and pulled out a weapon and went, oh, this is dumb. I think you can get over yourself. I think that takes a grand total of 1, maybe 2 weeks of contemplation and meditation, which a Jedi Master should have no problems figuring out. In fact, I don't think you need to meditate over that. You'd be like, oh, wow, the Force works in mysterious ways. I shouldn't have reacted that strongly. Let's go correct this problem. Not run away to some island because my emotions got the better of me. Are you kidding me? That does not make any sense. This is the problem with Luke's character. How he became a curmudgeon doesn't make sense. The film echoes Yoda's words from The Empire Strikes Back. No, it doesn't. The Force's energy surrounds us and binds us. What the hell does that mean? Is that because Luke felt something through the Force, therefore he's bound to feel guilt or shame forever? No. What are you talking about? That's stupid. Luke and Ellie have parallel character arcs. What are you talking about? Luke, a guy who feels shame and wants to hide and die, and Ellie who just wants to kill everyone in her quest to kill Abby and anyone associated with Joel's death. What are you talking? What? Luke's journey of re-embracing the Force, he never lost it. He was kidding around. He always had it. Maybe he learned the capacity to hide himself from it or to keep Godchild Mary Sue from sensing it, but he always had it. He was using it when she was fighting him. When Rey nearly killed him, he was using the Force to grab an antenna use as a weapon and to keep himself from falling on his ass. So he never lost it. He always had it, re-embracing the Force. He disliked the Jedi, not the Force. The Force is just a force of nature, literally. The Jedi are a mentality or a philosophy of that, or in general. Is rooted in him letting go of an idealized version of himself. He is not a perfect being. I don't think he ever said he was. Maybe he was criticizing the Jedi in that regard, but that's it. Free from dark thoughts and feelings, but a person. Even Luke, as much as he hated the Jedi, equally, if not more so, hated the Sith. When he was referring to Rey embracing the dark side or seeking it out when she wanted answers. And there's nothing wrong with that, since she came to that island for answers anyway, and Luke never gave her any, aside from two stupid lessons that one was just not very helpful, and the other one was just talking about how bad the Jedi are. Okay, whatever. When Luke foresees Ben's murderous future, his body reacts and he grabs his lightsaber. It's an impulse, not a conscious choice. Impulses are still conscious. I don't know how pulling out a weapon is an impulse, but fine. That's what the movie showed us. He has the desire to kill Ben, but doesn't act on it. Exactly. He has the impulse, and then he uses his mind to stop him from doing that. So he didn't actually do it. You see how we start breaking down this behavior, we understand the problem with it, or with the story of the character of Luke. It's pretty clear what happened in the movie. And you have to be some sort of moron to not understand this basic concept of psychology of your own understanding of impulse. Oh, you did something, but not fully. You're like, oh yeah, I was about to jump off a building. I didn't do that. I'm still alive. Problem solved. You didn't kill yourself. You had a very stupid reaction to whatever, and you did not kill yourself. Bravo, Luke. Get over yourself. It doesn't take 30, 40 years to do so. What happens is uncomfortable and has dark consequences, but is understandable. No. 1,000 times no. What happens is uncomfortable, yes, which has dark consequences, why, we don't know, but is understandable, absolutely not. So this person either likes The Last Jedi or is rationalizing what happened in the movie, because that never actually happens in the movie. It doesn't make sense. Well, Spudboy, it didn't make sense to you. You were having a subjective experience. No, you cannot rationalize Luke's behavior that way. It literally is not in the film for us to go, this makes sense. There is no connection between A and B and C. Luke feeling sorry for or shame or whatever does not suddenly translate to him standing on an island and fishing for 40 years. There's something missing. There's a gap of time, and there's a lack of a story between that event and that effect. So I'm sorry, it's not there. Just because the story says I feel shame is not the be-all explanation. Why is Luke doing anything? He feels shame. Why is Luke not helping his sister? He feels shame. Why is Luke not contacting anyone? He feels shame. Everything is shame to Luke. What Luke learns or relearns is that the presence of incorruptible good resides perfectly in the Force and imperfectly in people. Are you trying to tell me that a Mary Sue came by and fixed Luke? Because I don't think that's what happened. In fact, Luke went through once Rey left, he went through the effort of about to burn all the Jedi texts. And we're not too sure whether he was going to do it or not, because Yoda shows up and ends up doing it for him. And once he ends up doing it, once Yoda ends up lighting the tree on fire, Luke's like, what are you doing? You're burning all the Jedi texts. Which means that Luke didn't learn his lesson. He wasn't about to do the thing he wanted to do. He's still having problems. But it took Yoda 30, 40 years of not helping his little student after all this time to go tell Luke, hey, you know what? We learned from our mistakes. And Luke goes, oh yeah. And he decides to do something about it, I guess. You see, we have very stupid motivations and behavior of the character of Luke That's why we call him Jake. There's no other explanation. It's someone else. Luke had a lobotomy. Luke had a brain hemorrhage. He forgot things. His personality completely changed, and there's no explanation. At the end of the film, when Luke sacrifices himself does he sacrifice himself? Maybe he was using a force power to say, hey, I don't want to live anymore. I'm going to just blend in with Force Ghost powers now. And how was he sacrificing himself? By projecting himself to another place that he somehow divined he knew where everyone was and what their problem was. How is making a hologram of yourself far away sacrifice? He was in no danger. He could have stopped that projection at any time. And that would have confused Kylo as much. He's like, what the hell was that all about? When Luke dies, he passes on with hope. Really? A hope of what? Gazing in the sunset as he is as a boy. When he was gazing in the sunset as a boy, he just saw his family murdered. He wasn't exactly in the right state of mind. Certainly the opposite of hope. He was just sitting there going, oh, now what do I do? What do I have to do? Where do I have to go now? Do I have to go get revenge on my dead family? I don't know. I guess. It ends up not becoming that. However, whereas the horizon once represented his destiny, it now represents his ever-expanding light side of the Force. Is it? Who's interpreting it that way? When you're sitting at the end of The Last Jedi and you're watching Luke disappear into the Force with his metallic hand coming with him, you're going, what the hell is that about? Why is this happening? I guess he took too many Force drugs? Like what caused Luke to die? We don't know. It's very confusing. We don't get it. With Yoda, he died of old age or something. We don't need a specific explanation why Yoda died. We can guess it was old age. With Luke, we're like, can Force users use too much Force and then die? Did he have a heart attack? Did he have a stroke? Like, how does that work? He didn't seem like he was too stressed out. Yeah, he looked tired, but he wasn't like on the verge. If you're on the verge of death, you wouldn't be able to climb up onto a rock and sit. You'd just be like laying on the ground like, oh my God, I can barely breathe. My heart is giving up. My brain is not working. You'd be lying almost comatose on the ground, unmoving. Like getting the wind knocked out of you. Or, I don't know, pick a particular physical condition. It doesn't make too much sense. But Ryan had to have that scene where Luke looks off into the sunset. And of course he had to sit on his ass in a yoga position or something. Ellie's journey mirrors that of Luke. Are you kidding me? Are you joking me? A plot of revenge mirrors that of Luke. Okay. As she too loses the ideal version of herself. What are you talking about? When was Ellie ever having an ideal version of herself? Ellie saw Joel's death. It traumatized her. She wanted revenge. End of story. There was no soul searching. There was no, my ideal version is not what I'm living. There's nothing like that. What are you talking about? Previously, Ellie could say her life mattered because her immunity could make a cure, but yeah, that's not part of the story. That's a very small element. But in The Last of Us, her immunity is irrelevant because of Joel's actions. No, that's not. Ellie felt this way towards Joel because Joel lied to her. She didn't like that. That was all that mattered in the first. As long as you don't lie to me, doesn't matter. All she wants to know is what happened. And Joel lied. Now you might be arguing, well, that's the role of a parent. That's what parents do to keep their kids from harm. But then Joel's past and what he did caught up with him. So how does that have anything to do with Ellie's identity? So like Luke, Ellie must find a new identity. And by the end of the game, she does. It's like, oh, okay. I thought by the end of the game, she just loses some fingers. She's now the 8-fingered woman. Bravo, identity. In The Last of Us 2 climax, Ellie spares Abby by connecting with the fullness of her feelings. Oh, shut up. The fullness. all these other big romantic terms that don't mean anything. The fullness of her feelings. The fullness of her feelings involves not killing someone, which you were trying to do the entire time, and losing some fingers. Somehow that seems like a very strange lesson to learn in embracing the fullness of your feelings. She realizes that at the center of everything that happened with Joel is love. No, it wasn't. As we know, everyone in this story is imperfect and gray. Joel is not 100% love. He's actually he's like 51% murder. Okay. Somehow, everything that happened with Joel is love, and that provides hope. Hope for what? What is Ellie hopeful for? What are you talking about? She matters not because of her immunity, but because she is herself? What the hell? What kind of nonsense is this? She matters because she is herself. What? Is this some sort of Evangelion ending? Congratulations, you're here? You made it? What does this mean? During the game's conclusion, Ellie seeks out Dina with the assertion that she's indeed capable of love. No! Ellie seeks out her previous life, and there's nothing there. It's an empty ending. It means nothing. There's nothing left. Just like Luke, Ellie finds the strength to move forward because she learns to value... Well, how do you know that? Luke decides to do projection because Yoda was there to teach him a lesson after all this time for some stupid reason. He couldn't do it. Yoda couldn't do it the day after he screwed up. Ellie finds this. How did Ellie find the strength? All she did was walk back home. I mean, it does take physical strength and time and dedication, I guess, if you want to characterize it that way. But that's like everyone walks in this, aside from driving, everyone walks in this story. So it's not exactly some magical, amazing personality change or growth. Ellie doesn't grow. She makes the choice not to kill Abby for some dumb reason that we don't grasp, because flashback thing, which she should have had a flashback at any point during the story, but apparently it just had to happen at that point in the story. So no, I don't think Ellie found strength. And if you're saying forgiveness is strength, well, where was the forgiveness? Flashback of Joel does not mean forgiveness. In fact, the entire flashback of Joel, when we saw later on in the story, is that she's trying to forgive Joel. So why would she completely forgive Abby? And if you argue, well, she didn't completely forgive Abby, but she forgave her enough to not want to kill her. You're like, what are you talking about now? How are you comparing a memory of Joel of trying to forgive him to partially forgiving Abby enough not to kill her? It's just very confusing. The reason why Ellie has done all this is because of Abby and her desire to kill Joel. And then Ellie's desire to kill Abby. And she just drops the ball. That there's no reason why that would happen after she's killed hundreds, if not thousands, of other people. It seems petty. It seems stupid that one flashback would cause her to stop, as if her entire energy just dropped. And you call that strength? I call that a lack of strength. I call that a lack of faculties. Nothing stopping Ellie from going after Abby a third time. Or a second time, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, no, it's a third time. In The Last of Us 3, if you want to tell that story. This is a really bad take, a really bad understanding of comparing The Last of Us 2 and The Last Jedi. Divisive among fans, yet faithful to their franchises. Oh, give me a break. This person is obviously a Last of Us defender and the Last Jedi defender. How else can you say faithful to their franchise? Dive deep into their series themes. No, they don't. And emerge as twins. No, they don't. With very differently depicted journeys. Okay, if you have very differently depicted journeys, you can't have similar themes. You just can't. That's not how stories work. You're inventing the narrative, my friend. Proclaiming the existence of goodness and love in the face of hatred and evil. I don't. Goodness and love. So what you're saying was that Ellie was doing was evil? Revenge is evil. So Abby getting revenge on Joel was evil, even though everything that we've seen about her life was a good thing. All of her friends saw it as a good thing. She saw it as a good thing. I don't get it. She even has a dream where it feels good, where she sees her dad, and her dad's like alive and well and looking at her. And that forces her to go help some kids again. I don't get evil. How is there evil in The Last of Us where everyone's morally gray? How is what Luke is doing evil? I don't. Well, this was just confusing to me. I hope you guys got a better understanding of this. It goes to show you that some people are dumb. Okay? They just don't get movies. They don't get stories. And they invent things that aren't there. They reach very far. They use headcanon and they project. That's all this is. Yes, there is a similarity between The Last Jedi and Last of Us 2. Not in the way this person explained. It's the reaction from the fans. It's divisive. That's it. Totally different stories. Totally different media. This was a joke. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Hope you're having a great day.